grounding. So my simplified definition of grounding is touching a part of your body to the earth. Now, off the bat, this just feels good, like walking bare feet on the sand or the grass. It just undeniably feels good. And according to the biohacking community, there is actually some pretty legitimate science as to why it feels so good and the benefits you get from grounding yourself to the earth. So, from plungereviews.com, grounding, also known as earthing, involves making direct contact with the Earth's surface by walking barefoot on natural materials like grass, soil, or sand. What happens when you expose your direct skin and body to the Earth is that you'll absorb the Earth's free electrons, which can neutralize harmful free radicals in your body, reduce inflammation, and improve overall health. From moroscoforge.com, the electrical imbalance you get from not grounding causes dysfunctional coagulation of blood cells, an increased risk of blood clots and stroke, and overall makes the heart have to work harder. This picture from Jessica Genetics shows the difference between grounding and not grounding. The image on the left is before grounding, which shows red blood cells clumped together, making them easier to clot. And the image on the right is after just 30 minutes of grounding, and we can see the red blood cells are dispersed, which allows them to flow much better through the blood vessel. We see time and time again just some really good benefits just from simply walking barefoot on the ground. And the best part about this is that grounding is literally free. Like so many of the best things out there, like fasting, for example, companies can't really make money on grounding, so it's just not that mainstream. But trust me, it works, and it has been gaining a ton of popularity. And if we look at this chart from 2015, we can see the amount of people searching for grounding benefits has been increasing rapidly. So clearly, more and more people are waking up to this new phenomenon. What's crazy to me is that for literally all of human history, grounding wasn't even a thing. It was literally just life. Humans would just walk around. Their feet would be in constant contact with the earth, naturally neutralizing our free radicals and allowing the earth to literally charge us. And then shoes were invented. And there's just so many problems with shoes, from changing the dynamics of the way that humans literally have walked and run throughout our entire existence, to even permanently changing the mold of our feet by making them more narrow with these shoes, otherwise known as foot prisons. But as far as I'm concerned for this episode, what shoes essentially do is they put a piece of rubber between you and the earth. So no more grounding just from simply walking around. So because of shoes, something that should be a natural part of everyday life now has to become a biohacker weird type of thing. But whatever, at least more and more people are finally waking up to the importance of grounding. So now you may be asking, how does this practice of grounding relate to cold plunging, and why is it on the Cold Plunge podcast? Well, so far we've only talked about the most natural method of grounding, which of course is walking barefoot on the ground, but there's actually multiple methods to grounding. And believe it or not, cold plunging is the absolute best way to ground yourself. So, here are my rankings for the best ways to ground yourself, starting with the worst. Number 5, the worst way to ground yourself is with grounding mats. So grounding mats actually plug into the ground port of an electrical outlet. So you are literally plugging a mat into your electrical outlet, and then you stand or lay on the mat, and allegedly you will be grounded. A lot of people put these mats in their bed and they literally sleep on them. I am personally a little sketched out by grounding mats. I can't tell if they're just a money grab in the wellness space or they actually work. I feel like there's definitely got to be some EMF radiation associated with grounding mats, so I don't really trust grounding mats, and I personally don't use one, especially considering every other method that I'm about to mention is literally free. So number 4, walking barefoot. Walking barefoot is the most standard and super legit method. Just literally go outside, no shoes, no socks, just walk on the ground. It'll feel so great to just take those foot prisons off your feet and just feel that earth. Number 3, cold plunging in a metal ice bath. So water is actually a very good conductor of electricity. So if you cold plunge in a metal ice bath that is on the ground, you will actually get benefits of grounding. And the best part is that because your whole body is submerged, your whole body will be exposed to the grounding effect. Keep in mind though, this has to be a metal tub. So if you're in a plastic or an acrylic ice bath, you may not get any grounding benefits. It's almost like the equivalent of wearing shoes when you're outside. You're literally separating yourself from the earth. The Morosco Forge actually claims that their ice baths are in fact heavily grounded, and they've done a lot of third-party testing to show the grounding benefits of their specific ice baths. So I would say metal ice bath or a Morosco Forge. Number 2, laying on the ground. This one is very similar to walking barefoot. The only difference is that laying will expose so much more of your body to the ground at once. Fun fact, our hunter-gatherer ancestors slept on the ground all the time, which in my opinion, sleeping grounded will allow you to get the best possible sleep. Although you may think that sleeping on a mattress would actually be better, I think that sleeping on the ground, like our ancestors, is probably going to give you the most effective sleep. I remember seeing a tour of the Liver King's house back in the day, and if I remember correctly, his beds were actually on the ground floor of his house, and they were also grounded to the earth, and he was basically sleeping on like wooden planks. So he was saying that his sleep was fully grounded, and he was just trying to mimic as best as possible how our hunter-gatherer ancestors used to sleep, and that of course would be grounded to the earth. And finally, the number 1 way to ground yourself. Drum roll please. The number 1 way to ground yourself is by cold plunging in the ocean. It's also the most dangerous way to cold plunge, so definitely do this at your own risk. But nonetheless, this is the best way to ground yourself from a health perspective. So why is this the case? For one, water is like the best conductor of electricity. It's better than land. So for example, if you're just walking barefoot, you'll actually get more grounding benefits from walking on moist land as opposed to walking on dry land. Also, the ocean water with its high salt and mineral content will make it an even better conductor. So for example, fresh water isn't as good of a conductor of electricity as ocean water. When you're in the ocean as opposed to fresh water, every single bit of you is exposed to salt and minerals, and the ocean is just grounding your entire body in the best possible way. So obviously, cold plunging feels incredible when you get out, and there's a million different reasons for this, but one of the reasons that is often very missed is that there is a huge amount of grounding that takes place from an ocean plunge.
This is the Cold Plunge Podcast with me, Mike Gorman. Be sure to check out the video version of this podcast on our YouTube channel and check the show notes for any references, studies, or links to anything I spoke about on our website at plungereviews.com/podcasts. If you have a question you want answered or comment about the show, feel free to reach out in our official Facebook group, which is called Cold Plunge Community.